The views expressed on the following program are those of its host and participants and in no way reflect those of the staff or management of WNRI.
This is Veterans News Radio, getting to the heart of Veterans Affairs. A program dedicated to unveiling the truth in a relentless pursuit of justice on behalf of veterans. Coming to you live from Rhode Island to the world with your host, High Speed Sal.
Welcome back to Veterans News Radio right here on WNRI 1380 in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. So today is the 24th of February. We've had some pretty interesting things going on here federally in Providence itself. We had a nurse who admittedly pled guilty, and this nurse, get this, from the Providence VA Medical Center. She pled guilty of stealing drugs such as oxycodone, morphine, and a number of other things. This stuff went on last year, I guess, from what it's saying here. And she finally got caught. So to everyone wondering why the, office of the Inspector General was here a few months ago, I guess this is the reason why. But anyway, she took approximately 240 pills. I've got an excerpt here from WPRI, Channel 12, right here in Providence. And it says right here, basically, that a former registered nurse at the Providence VA Medical Center pleaded guilty Friday to stealing prescription drugs from her place of work. Lisa McMahon admitted to stealing prescription drugs from an automated medication dispensing system between May and October of last year. The Office of the District Attorney, Peter Nerona, announced Tuesday McMahon, 47, of Providence, used an override feature to obtain controlled substance pills 19 times, according to court records. Approximately 240 pills were removed, including but not limited to oxycodone and morphine. Nerona's office said the medications were not prescribed by physicians or administered to patients. Nerona said McMahon also failed to disclaim her termination at a previous job during her application for employment at the VA Center. She was fired from her position as a nurse in an intensive care unit of another hospital in Rhode Island back in 2013. McMahon pled guilty to one count of theft of government property and one count of false statements. She's scheduled to be sentenced on May 13th. So, actually, how the heck did that happen?
Well, the audacity. Jeff Gamash sitting in as we wait Dennis's arrival here on VNR. In a system that you're going to get caught. I mean, these automated pill systems, every pill's accounted for.
Of course they are.
My wife works picking these pills for the CVS company.
Right.
And one pill's missing, it's a notice for. So the audacity to think you're going to get away with it is one thing. We don't know why she was fired from the intensive care unit of this mystery hospital. Maybe that'll be foreseen in a little bit.
But it looks to me like what was here is the VA never vetted her.
No, and
they just hired her. That was it.
And you wonder what if she wasn't, under charges for anything, and we don't know the circumstances at the other hospital, what tools are out there for vetting if the person is insincere on their employment application. But you almost wonder, should there be some sort of a central log system of people that are terminated from key positions in intensive care unit at a hospital to get another medical job to make it easier for these entities to cross-reference people that could be coming from one place to another?
Well, Jeff, here's a problem that we have, and I've always been fighting this. I wish I could change it. In fact, I'm going to do my darndest to change something like this. At the VA, they really don't look at licensure. They look at certification, and, okay, you're a certified registered nurse. You got the job. You're hired. Problem is, and I'm not going to, I don't want to talk bad about the VA, at least I'm going to be on their side with this one because I've talked to people there that work there, employees themselves. The VA is losing a lot of employees, especially doctors, because they're just cramming patients into these doctors, and they just can't handle it. That's how many there are. And instead of hiring more people, they're just giving them more boatloads and boatloads of patients, cases, and everything else to look at. And of course, the doctor's going to even mess up. But if the VA is that desperate to hire somebody who already is at fault for something, obviously they're not doing it. They're just hiring you right off the street because, all right, you're registered, you're good to go. Another thing that I have, too, with the VA is most doctors are not, board certified in the state of Rhode Island. They're from different states. There was a doctor back in 2013.
That's a big thing.
At this VA, at the Providence VA, who was certified in Massachusetts. Well, fortunately, this guy got caught while doing surgery. He was high on painkillers doing surgeries. That's interesting. I wonder if that's how the squiggly lines came out when some of the people get their, their scars and you look at them afterwards. Or, oops, sorry, took out the wrong eye.
It's like TV stuff, though. I mean, it's like
it is.
modeling out of Dr. House.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
And the thing is, now, he did get in trouble, and he lost his Massachusetts license. But how is it that a doctor who's working at the VA in the state of Rhode Island is working there with a doctor's license from Massachusetts?
No, I wonder if that's exclusively a VA problem. I mean, if he was working, say, at Merriam Hospital, he would have to have that license.
You got to be licensed in this state as well.
Yeah.
I'm a licensed professional as well. If I want to work out of state, I have to have a license in that other state. However, if I want to work at a federal facility, well, I guess my one license covers it. In some cases, I think it's wrong. In the case of healthcare, I think it's extremely wrong. I think something needs to be done with it.
Well, in healthcare, the more checks and balances, obviously, the better.
Well, there are. I mean, I've worked very hard and diligently with different representatives in the state. State legislators. One of them, who I know I can mention his name, Mike Chippendale from District 40, up in Foster. We looked at trying to do something about making the VA accountable with the state board. Of health, and absolutely not. This is sovereign ground. You can't do it. You can't come here and do this.
Why, is it Indian territory? I mean,
it's federal territory, and that's the end of it. Which, that didn't make sense to me either. And it's like, but these guys are getting away with stuff. I mean, and they've been misdiagnosing at times. They've been doing all sorts of things. They need to get, themselves in line and do the right thing.
Certainly seems, to my outsider perspective, that they should be held to the same standards of Rhode Island Hospital, Merriam Hospital, Landmark Hospital. And,
actually, as far as I'm concerned, the VA should be held to higher standards, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not trying to say because we're veterans that we should have better than everybody else. But you know what? As veterans, we made sure that everybody out there had better than everybody else, and made sure that people could go to bed at night and sleep soundly. And you know what I'm talking about.
Looks like we may have a call on our line.
Yeah, that's probably my guy who's calling. Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, let's bring him into the program.
Hey, welcome to VNR. You're on air.
Yes, this is Wayne Hayden.
Hello, Wayne. How are you?
Well, I'm enjoying the sunshine today.
Really?
Yeah.
From where?
It's been snowing up here in Red Feather Lakes, Colorado.
Okay. And you finally got sunshine.
Yeah, we got some sunshine, so it looks like it's going to be a really nice week.
Uh-huh. That's good, but I understand you're going to make it even a better week for a lot of veterans.
Well, I'm going to do my best.
Well, that's what we're here for. Well, I want to welcome Devil Dog Dennis back on board. He just came in. Wayne, he's my co-host.
Traffic was a nightmare this evening.
Well, traffic, fog, rain. Yes, we're getting a heat wave coming through, which is weird. But anyway,
wow.
For the end of No, November? Yeah, right. I'm lost. February.
So how are you this evening, Wayne?
I am doing much better today. I had a really good day. I went to Fort Collins and actually got myself a primary care doctor outside the VA through the choice program, and that was awesome.
Now, you originally went to the Denver VA or to...
Cheyenne.
Okay.
And they got a little clinic in Fort Collins that's just almost as worthless as Cheyenne, but not quite.
Okay. Okay, we know about the choice program. I'm sure that a lot of veterans do. But did you have difficulty getting onto it?
Well, yes. Now, after I won my claims last June, I knew about the 40-mile limit, and so I went and got in the car and I drove 40 miles up into the mountains and started looking for a place to buy. And so I bought the very 2 driveways down the road from there, and I moved in here, bought a house and moved in here. Then I started working on trying to get the choice program to work for me, and all I got was a bunch of headaches right off the bat, so I kind of gave up on it, and then I went back after it again and found out that I'm mileage eligible. So that changes. There's 2 different programs in the choice thing here. There's one that's called choice and one that's called choice first. And so if you're mileage eligible, meaning that you're more than 40 miles from a VA facility, then you qualify for that, and you do not you're not required to get a VA provider's recommendation. You can just call choice up and make that request yourself. So immediately when I found that out, I asked the guy, I says, well, I want a primary care doctor. Now, this was 4.5 months ago. And so that we went around, never got anywhere with that until finally today. But I got really heavily involved in it 2 weeks ago. And now I have a very good understanding of how that system is supposed to work and how we can make it work for us, by knowledge. So it is critical. If you live more than 40 miles from a VA facility, you're mileage eligible, and you can request right directly to choice whatever you need.
Right.
And it's your choice. You can tell them what doctor you want to see, and they will do their best to get that doctor online for you, which is what I wound up doing. And because they could never figure out who to send me to, and they kept trying to send me everywhere but here, and so I finally just took control of it and told them what doctors I wanted to see.
Sometimes, unfortunately, you have to do that. But anyway...
That helps, though. Once you get into that part, and you're able to take control of your health care, and you know what you need, and the primary care is really important in order that you can get all kinds of other care that's available that we don't even know about. For instance, I'm getting chiropractic care twice a week for a year. I'm also getting acupuncture because I happen to be one of the Fort McClellan veterans that can't take any pain meds. So I have found that acupuncture will relieve my pain.
You know what, Wayne? They've done the same thing for me, too. And the first few visits, it took a while. But now I'm going to tell you, I was very skeptical about it. In fact, within a couple of weeks, I'm going to have my acupuncturist here at the studio. And we're going to put the word out for it. It's actually starting to work. And here's me. I was skeptical. I was worried, okay, you guys, what's next? A witch doctor after this?
Yeah, me too. And I'm scared to death of needles. So it took a couple of years of people telling me and talking to me about trying it before I gathered up enough nerve to go down there and lay down on a table and let somebody stab on me a while.
Right.
And so the first experience, I was a little scared to death, and I had her take my phone and take pictures of my back so I'd know what I looked like.
Right.
And so, it took a couple of times, but I actually realized one day that I wasn't in pain.
Right. Well, like I said, I've noticed that I'm doing somewhat better. I'm not there, and she doubts, and I'm going to be very truthful with you. I mean, this woman, she's great because she came right out and said, listen, there's certain things we can do and certain things we can't do. We can't cure cancer with acupuncture.
Yeah.
But we can help relieve things, but it doesn't mean they're going to be gone.
There you go. Now, that's the same situation with me.
And that's very important that they say that.
Yes, it is. Now, it's also, I've managed to get some other things too, like massage therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I started because I was laying as relaxed as I could be on that table, but my muscles are in ropes and stuff because of the toxic exposure.
Yeah.
So what was happening is I was bending the needles in acupuncture.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mentioned to the lady, well, how about you? I didn't know at that time that I could just request the massage myself.
Right.
Instead, I went through them, and I had them put it in the records and send to HealthNet or Choice that I needed to be seen by a massage therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And boom, I managed to get massage online.
That's
so
wonderful.
Now I'm doing massage, I'm doing chiropractic, and then I go for acupuncture, and I don't bend the needles right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting the pain level has dropped drastically from what I used to be in. That's for sure. I can walk around now.
Yeah.
I can't walk very far, but I can get there and get back. I can make it to my mailbox.
That's the most
sure.
important thing, actually.
Half a mile away, but I can get there and get back.
You can do more than me then. Wayne, tell me something. So anyway, I'm sure that, the listening audience is very, very interested in knowing what's going on. You basically you actually are one of the people who was able to fight the VA and actually win the VA.
Yes. I found out when I filed my claims, I did not know yet about Fort McClellan. Okay, I was blaming everything on Korea because that's where I went to a NBC school, and that's where I was trained in nuclear, biological, and chemical detection. And in that little school that I went to there, one of the classes was about being able to tell whether someone was exposed or not.
Uh-huh.
And so I started seeing, wow, rashes. Man, I've had this rash for 6 months, it won't go away. I started seeing myself in some of this stuff I was learning.
Right.
And so I was being trained in that type of environment, so I blamed everything on Korea. Everything.
Right.
Well, when I came home, I continued with the allergies. I continued with the rashes that wouldn't go away, and all these problems, and I just kept blaming it on Korea.
Right.
And then I talked to another veteran one day, and he told me, he says, where were you stationed? And I said, well, I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri for basic for 4 weeks, and then they turned around, they pulled me out of basic and sent me on to AIT at Fort Ord. And he says, you were at Fort Ord? I go, yeah. He says, well, you need to look into that because that's a Superfund site. He said, that's probably where you got exposed. I said, exposed to what? And he says, you need to go to EPA.gov and type in the search window, toxic exposure zones, and then start going down the list, and you'll find Fort Ord on there. He said, click on that link and open it up, and you'll see what all you managed to get exposed to there. And so I follow his direction, and I go there to EPA.gov, and I type in toxic exposure zones, and I managed to get these pages. And I'm going down the page, and I see this Anniston Army Depot. And it rang a bell, but it didn't sink in. And I kept on going because I was there looking for Fort Ord. So I continued on to other pages, and up comes Anniston Army Depot again. Now this time it hit me hard because I was always attached to some of the airborne units that were always doing training out there on Pelham Range. And I was always going in and out of that Army depot to get ammo and everything else for those guys.
Right.
And so I thought, well, maybe I need to look here. And so I opened that document up, and there was Fort McClellan all over the place. And I go, you got to be freaking kidding me. And that was in the middle of 2008. And so I took that documentation that I took off of there. I took my active duty medical records that were always lost and could never be found by the VA until I managed to run into another veteran that worked at the VA, and he says, here, I can help you get your medical records. And I said, that's bullshit, because my congressman can't even get them, and they've all tried.
Don't you love when that happens? I mean, almost 13 years from my medical discharge, and I just had both my surgeries this past year.
Yeah.
Because they can't seem to find records.
They can't find records. Well, he told me, he says, you sign this form, and what I was asking for is requesting a complete copy of my claims file. And lo and behold, there where the VA could not find my medical records, my active duty medical records, there they were. All of them right there.
Well, Wayne, I'd like to stop you right there. We're going to have to cut to a short commercial break. Got to pay the bills. But when we come back, I'd like to get into a little more about what you've done with your claims towards the VA and how you've gotten past the political rhetoric that is going on with the whole Fort McClellan issues. So if you could stay right there, Wayne, and we'll be right back.
Veterans News Radio, brought to you by Midstate Gun Company, 1200 Tioga Avenue in Coventry, Rhode Island. A full-service firearms retailer for Rhode Island, offering a full line of firearms and accessories, from the industry classics to the latest innovations. They stock handguns, rifles, shotguns, and black powders, as well as accessories spanning from targets to cleaning supplies, cases to storage, ammo, mags, loaders, and Midstate also buys, consigns, and trades firearms. And now Midstate Gun Company proudly presents to you Rhode Island's first public indoor firing range, including 12 25-yard rifle and pistol lanes. Midstate Gun Company has RSOs, handgun, rifle, and shotgun qualified instructors, offering instructed range time, basic and advanced firearm classes, and free blue card testing. Whether you are new to the sport or a serious competitor, stop by Midstate Guns, 1200 Tioga Avenue, Coventry, Rhode Island. Call 401-615-0669 or email info@midstateguns.com. They'll be there with the help you need. Midstate Gun Company, proud sponsor of Veterans News Radio.
I'm retired United States Army Staff Sergeant Travis Mills. My motto has always been, never give up, never quit. That belief got me through high school, the Army, and my recovery. And it's a motto shared with my fellow veterans. They finished their military service, but they're not close to quitting. They're back home and ready to get to work. They've got what it takes. You can give them the opportunity. America's veterans. Hire the best. Access their experience with Easter Seals.
Hey.
Hi.
This game's supposed to be in Iraq. Is this what it looked like when you were over there?
Sort of.
Shoot, I died. I'll shut it off, okay?
Okay.
Grandpa called earlier. So, you want to watch TV?
Either way.
When a vet comes home, the silences can be deafening. You may not know what to say, but we can help start the conversation. Visit supportyourvet.org. A public service message brought to you by Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America and the Ad Council.
Let me ask you a question. When you think of the American Legion, what comes to mind? Is it our assistance programs that help the spouses and children of our fallen soldiers keep food on the table?
I'm working to help the families of our fallen soldiers know that they are supported and taken care of. I am the American Legion.
For nearly 100 years, the American Legion has been our nation's leading advocate for veterans and their families.
I am the American Legion.
This is today's American Legion.
To learn more, visit legion.org.
Welcome back to Veterans News Radio. Thanks for sticking around, guys. We've got Wayne on. Wayne Hayden from Colorado, and was also a Fort McClellan veteran. I had to step out for a second, Wayne. Sorry about that, but if I leave my sidekick here, I'll tell you what, he's just as good as I am, and sometimes even better.
So you were saying right before the commercial break, Wayne, about how you were able to find your records through a buddy that happened to work at the VA. Could you explain for some of the listeners what you had to go through to file a claim and the rhetoric behind the denial of Fort Mac?
Okay, now, filing the claim was very difficult. I tried for years asking my doctors at the VA to help me file a claim and to get that started, and everybody just stonewalled me. No VA doctor that I dealt with, and I dealt with Denver Oncology Department, I dealt with Cheyenne, and none of the doctors I saw would step up and help me in any way. And I was actually told that I needed to get a nexus letter. And so then I come back on my research nexus letter and try to figure out what that is so I could go get one from somebody. And then I found out that VA did not have anybody in immunology. So I requested the VA, non-VA care, to send me to an immunologist. And luckily for me, God's been on my side, for sure. But they sent me to the same immunologist that I've been dealing with for years before I ever even came to the VA. And lo and behold, he was a retired Air Force doctor that worked at Wiesbaden Army Hospital as well as the Walter Reed Hospital in D.C. Mm-hmm. So this guy has some credentials. He actually stated in his opinion of me, once I provided him my active duty military records, the medical records, and the all the history from VA and history in between, then he was able to write a letter for me that stated, in his professional opinion, it was more likely than not that my health issues were either caused by or aggravated by the chemical exposure at Fort McClellan, mm-hmm. to include TCE, PCBs, and the list goes on. Mm-hmm. So then I took that letter, and I didn't just turn that into the VA and think that, that's all I need to do. No, I decided to add a little more weight to it because those assholes that were
easy, Wade, easy. We're on AM here. We can't do that. Okay.
Well, those incompetent people who were providing care for me at the wonderful VA, I went back to them with that letter, and I asked them to either agree or disagree with that letter. They were cornered, and so they agreed with the letter. However, they did change the wording to as likely as not, and not more likely than not, like the doctor had actually stated. Mm-hmm. But they did agree, and so I had them. So then I turned in all of that paperwork to the VA, and they just chose not to read it,
right.
Period.
Now,
and that went on for several years until I got a hold of Robert McDonald, Allison Hickey, and Carolyn Clancy.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you this. Besides putting in that paperwork, what documents did you include with this? Did you have EPA documents included with this? I mean, you had to have some documents that showed.
Yes, I pulled everything off of the Environmental Protection Agency's website.
Okay.
And
Anything in particular?
I took everything that I could get at that time. Now, this was 2008, so there wasn't as much available
As
then
there is now. Right.
But I did manage to get a trichloroethylene report done, too. And I submitted that, too.
Okay. And you were able to find one?
Yes. And it's on the Fort McClellan Toxic Secrets and Health Registry Act page. I know that. It's
all right,
in there.
so people can go in there and look for it in the documentation area.
In the files section,
Yeah.
you can look down there and capital letters, toxicology of TCE. And that, we were drinking water and bathing in that every day, constantly.
Right.
And so that not only got us from outside in, but from inside out.
Got you.
And I tied everything together to the rashes. I did all that paperwork, and the doctor agreed with me. And so then they sent me to University of Colorado Health Services Center, and that doctor just said he was very sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no cure. And mastocytosis, which is what I actually have,
Right.
it's always fatal. More than likely, one of the anaphylactic reactions that I have repeatedly will actually catch me in a position where I won't be able to get help. But other than that, I'm doing okay.
Well, you just keep fighting. That's the most important thing. And Wayne, never give up. I've noticed the same thing, too. Never give up.
No, I'll never give up.
I've had that type of news as well. Well, yeah, you have this, but there's nothing we can do with it. We can just treat it, and hopefully it goes. And a lot of times it's devastated me as well. But we have to keep on fighting. You know, I always say till my last breath, period, because they haven't heard the last of me.
Right. Well, you know, I don't mind that this actually did happen to me. My mind is totally okay with it because I'm the one that stood up there and took the oath. So it's really not a whole lot different than a bullet. But my problem with this whole thing always has been what has happened to my kid.
Well, we're both on the same page with that, Wayne, and I'm sure you know that with mine as well. And I know that it's very, very upsetting.
And I've spoken to Sal about this in the past, too, and me being the child of a Vietnam veteran who was more than likely than not exposed to Agent Orange. You know, yes, and I'm a veteran myself as well, Wayne, but yes, we signed up to and including our lives to the U.S. military, to Uncle Sam and to his service. However, we didn't sign up for that.
No, because what we got wasn't even a bullet, Wayne. What we got was deception. They deceived us.
Exactly.
And they deceived us using big corporations such as Monsanto, the inventors of Agent Orange, the inventors of Roundup, and nowadays our GMO foods.
Yeah, that's right. Now, you know, since that website that the VA has about Fort McClellan, and they've got the date there to 1971. Now, my problem with that website is if they admit it to 1971, then why did they not inform why didn't they close it down in 71, or why didn't they...
I'm going to tell you why, Wayne. This is why, because that's when the leaks were from Monsanto. They're just trying to give it to the PCBs, and that's it. Yeah. This is the reason, by the way, everyone out there in Radio Land, why I am trying to get to Washington. I wanted to go this week, was supposed to go this week, unfortunately had to postpone because, well, you know, everybody wants to be, as I call them, couch activists, and didn't get much help. But anyway, because I'm done with being able to do stuff on my own. I just can't afford it anymore like I have been, and I've done it so many times. It's ridiculous. But the reason why I was going down is to speak to budgetary and to a couple of other people in Congress about, you know, that webpage, how it's so wrong and how it needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, somebody kiboshed that. So
we actually touched on that question last week, Wayne, about why nobody was aware, and the official statement from the then undersecretary, who is now going to be coming here to Rhode Island.
Yeah, I'm gonna love that one.
Miss King, her email blatantly states that, and she admits to the PCBs at Fort Mac, but the official statement was the monetary issues of awareing everybody, which, as we know, is hogwash. But
that's hogwash because they could put out a public broadcast that's free to the freaking government and inform everyone that way. That would be a very simple, easy, cheap thing to do.
Right.
And so that they do these free broadcasts every once in a while on TV, and so there's
well, of course they do, and we know how that works. But, they just don't want it. There's not enough money to take care of us. That's basically what it is. And they don't want to stand up for our children as well. And, of course, then you have the politicians who, have Monsanto in their pockets and everything else, too. But it goes on and on from there. But anyway, getting back to your claim and your appeal and everything else. When you appealed, did you do a person-to-person appeal or did you do a video appeal?
I did the video conference appeal.
Okay. That's supposed to work faster, I think?
Yes, it is.
How long did it take?
You can use your congressman to kind of speed that up, too.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I used my congressman to speed that up. But one thing I did, when I filed my claims, I didn't file them all at once like you're supposed to do, like they like you to do.
Yeah.
I filed them one at a time because I didn't know any better.
Right.
And so that kind of caused some delay in my situation from their perspective. It pissed me off on my side, but they used this as a delay tactic is what they did.
Yeah. Yeah, I got that.
And refused to read anything.
Right.
But I did get, in my final determination from the board, the Board of Veterans Appeals granted me service connection for idiopathic anaphylaxis, which is my allergies and rashes, with palpable mastocytosis. Now, that mastocytosis has been confirmed by doctors outside the VA because the VA was trying to deny it.
Right.
But now, I saw my immunologist last month, and he told me that they have now connected idiopathic anaphylaxis and mastocytosis together. Okay.
And this all caused by TCE, is that correct?
Well, it's caused by Fort McClellan.
Well, that much I know, right, but
TCE had a hell of a lot to do with it, and it was mentioned in my provider's documentation. Now, in the Board of Veterans Appeals thing, they didn't mention that. They just mentioned that there was some. It says, although the veteran's medical records reflect conflicting opinions as to whether or not he could have some type of mast cell disease, that's because I had VA doctors denying it.
Right.
He has been repeatedly diagnosed with idiopathic anaphylaxis by his private and VA healthcare providers. Multiple treatment providers have opined that his in-service rashes were an initial manifestation of his current disability, and some healthcare providers have opined the condition was caused by in-service exposure to toxic chemicals. Although the claims file does not contain evidence as to exact type or extent of any exposure to toxic chemicals that may have been present at Fort McClellan during the veteran's active duty service, it does reflect competent, credible evidence that an allergic condition was noted during his service, that symptomology continued after service, and that is the ethologically related to his current disability. Now, that one got me 60%. And then I'm now rated at about 220%, I think it is, altogether. But in the combined rating system, I am 100% total and permanent. And I have a letter from the director of the VA in Denver, the claims division director, stating that.
Right.
So I had to go the hard way. This was not an easy road for me at all, but I knew that once I posted pictures of my rashes that I was experiencing on Facebook, I could at least open the eyes of hundreds and hundreds of other veterans that had the same exact problems that no doctors could figure out what to do about or what it was.
Right.
And now they could go to their doctor and ask him to look into a mast cell disease, and they'll find the answers. And that mast cell, that's the cell that's in our skin that we use for our immune system to do everything. So when the mast cells get activated, what actually occurred to me is my adrenal glands got messed up, and now they're kicking the norepinephrine and norepinephrine that our bodies make naturally out through my kidneys instead of out through my muscles and tissues to deactivate the mast cells that are activated.
Certainly. There's nothing you can do about that? Like maybe take some type of shot or something like that to help it along?
I tried shot programs, started throwing me into severe allergic reactions, so they had to stop that.
Okay.
Currently what I do is Benadryl, liquid Benadryl.
Yeah.
I no longer measure it. I used to measure it 100 milligrams.
Now you just swig and that's the end of it. I got you.
I pick the bottle up and I drink it. You know, I know how much I need. I keep it in my mouth for a few minutes and try to absorb as much as I can. The liquid is so much more helpful to me because I have a problem with anaphylaxis.
Right.
That's a loss of blood pressure and also the closing of my airway.
Right.
So the Benadryl, by swallowing that slowly, I'm actually keeping my airway open too. Because it's going right down the same tube that closes.
Right. I got you.
Okay, so a pill you can take, and if you get it down, which I have trouble taking pills because they get caught in my esophagus or in somewhere in my throat. So the liquid actually gets down, and that's what coats my whole throat and stops the allergic reactions.
Gotcha. So what are the suggestions, because we're coming up to the end of the show, what are your suggestions to other veterans about, possibly filing a claim?
Okay, my biggest suggestion, I used the DAV, I used the American Legion, I used the VFW. I was after all of them, the lawyers and all of them, to help. And I got absolutely nowhere with none of them. And so I would highly recommend getting a civilian attorney like I did. And yeah, it might cost a little bit, but I tell you what, my attorney knows what happened, and he is willing to help. So I would highly suggest getting yourself an attorney that knows about Fort McClellan. You can ask them right off the bat, have you ever heard of Fort McClellan? If they say no, that's not the attorney that you need. Because there are attorneys out there that have heard of Fort McClellan.
Right.
And I welcome anybody to contact me directly. I'll be more than happy to help anyone in any way.
Okay, well, they can find you on Facebook. I know that for a fact, and of course, a lot of people know you. What I can promise you and what I can tell you, Henry, we're going to, Wayne, I'm sorry. I keep on getting your middle name mixed up with your first name.
Well, that's okay.
What I can promise you is we'll be back on again. We'll be talking a lot deeper into this. In fact, if I know that you used a lawyer as well, hey, maybe one of their assistants or something would like to come on with you. And we can talk a little bit more about that.
Yes. That would be,
it would be nice to see an insider's view of how the process goes, because, with DAV and VFW, they really don't tell you. You just kind of got to sit there and wait for the information to come back to you.
And then they mess you up completely, and as far as I'm concerned, they're a waste of time.
It would be interesting to hear what the process actually was.
Right. And this is what we're looking at. This is what we're fighting for. But anyway, Wayne, I'll be in touch with you probably by tomorrow, if not later.
Okay. That sounds good.
And we can talk a little bit more, and I'm very, very interested in this whole situation. I will be trying to get those documents as well, and I'll be trying to put them on our Veterans News Radio page as well, because it's very, very important. And we have to remember one more thing, too. It's not just us as veterans, it's our children as well. But not just that, it's also other military bases as well, because they were dumping grounds.
They were. Every mechanic that was a mechanic. Now, I've gone into the VA hospital in Cheyenne, walked down to the records department, and I asked the records guy for my health records, and I look at him and I realize his hands are all discolored. And I said, "Were you in the military?" He says, "Yeah, I spent 7 years in the Army." I go, "Oh, really?" And I says, "I bet you was a mechanic, wasn't you?" And he goes, "Yeah, how'd you know?" I said, "Because you was exposed to TCE. Look at your hands."
Yeah, I have that same issue, believe it or not, on my hands too, Wayne. But anyway, okay, we're going to get ready to sign off. So, Wayne, I appreciate you being on.
We wish you the best of health, Wayne. Thank you very much for being on this evening.
And like I said, I'll probably be talking to you either later or, sometime tomorrow. But thank you so very much. You did great.
And a pleasure.
Well, it was more of an honor to me for you to be on, sir.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
All right, thanks.
Have a great night, Wayne.
Bye.
That was great.
Yeah?
That was fantastic.
Very good guest.
Yeah, I'm going to have him back on again. But anyway, right, we've got all that stuff going on, so I guess, up until next week, hopefully I'll be in D.C. if by some kind of miracle something happens between now and then. And this is something I really, really have to do. But anyway, you got anything to add?
Well, I was a little late coming into the show, but did we cover military history?
No.
For today?
No.
Well, this particular story is something that I hold near and dear. In today's day and age, with everybody wanting to watch these superhero movies and Thor and Avengers and all that. Today in history, 24th of February, 1981, a true Captain America by the name of Roy Benavidez was honored at the White House by then President Ronald Reagan with the Congressional Medal of Honor. Roy was in the 5th Special Forces Group, 1968, 2nd of May, 1968, in the Republic of Vietnam. And when I say true Captain America, he led a 12-man Special Forces Group against 1,000 North Vietnamese infantry. By all means, go look him up. I'll give the short and sweet version of it. But he was able to save the lives of 8 men out of those 12, and came out of that battle of 6 hours with 37 separate bullet, bayonet, and shrapnel wounds. And when the doctors back at base were actually zipping up the body bag, he mustered all he could to spit at the doctor's face to tell him, "Hey, I'm not dead yet."
Yeah.
I mean, where do we find these people? Where the courage, and when he was asked about it in a after interview after he was awarded the Medal of Honor, the interviewer was calling it heroism and valor, and he said no, it was duty.
Okay.
So, Roy Benavidez.
Look him up. Look him up.
His family and, to all of our other great soldiers out there, men and women, this song's for you.
All right, this is High Speed Sal from Veterans News Radio and Devil Dog Dennis.
Have a
We're
great night, folks.
signing off. We'll see you next week. Thank you.